Welcome, everyone, to the MLB Network podcast. My name is Lauren Shehadi, and we are in for a treat today. I'm so excited because nobody has more passion in the game than my girl, Sarah Langs, researcher, reporter for MLB.com. She joins us now. Sarah, thanks for being with us. This is a treat for us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I feel
love getting to chat with you.
always, I feel like we all came to be in this business and kind of seeked this out because we love the game, right? We were around it when we were kids. What was your first memory of this great game and being around it when you were young?
I mean, I know I went to a game when I was about 4 years old and went to another the next year when I was 5. My first memory is really just sharing the game with my parents. We were always watching baseball. It was always on. We were talking about it. And so just having it as that constant in my life is really the first thing I remember more so than any specific.
I met your mom and your dad at the BBWA Awards dinner, and their passion for the game shines through as well. What were those conversations like about the game? Did you kind of pick their brain? Did they teach you?
Oh my goodness. I mean, my father's favorite player growing up was Roberto Clemente.
Oh,
I feel like I knew every fact about him by the time I was probably 8 years old. My mother was a huge Willie Mays fan. So those were their heroes and they became mine as well. Maybe even before I really knew current players, I knew about that history and that past. And I love that that's kind of my entry point to all of this.
the great humanitarian, the late, great Roberto Clemente. I remember the moment I fell in love with the game. I was 12 years old, Sarah. I can remember it so vividly. I was on the couch with my dad, and we were going to get ready to go watch the Orioles play because Cal Ripken Jr. was breaking Lou Gehrig's consecutive games played streak, and we had tickets to go to the game. I was 12 years old. They were playing the Angels, and in the crowd, it was this crazy who's who. It was dignitaries, it was presidents, it was all that. And I remember him taking a lap, a 14-minute standing ovation. And I thought, I mean, imagine 15, 16, 17 years never taking a day off. I can't imagine. And I thought, gosh, I want to be around this game as long as I can. Was there a moment on the field like that for you that you just said, I'm hooked?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I think back to just watching so many games and realizing maybe around sixth grade that there were jobs in this game, whether covering it, working for teams, whatever it may be, that I could be part of it as well. And I always credit my sixth grade English teacher, Josh Backrack. He was, the one who kind of said to me, you love writing, you love baseball, you could put this together, you could be part of this. Because for so long, I just loved him. I didn't realize that I could do something with it. But I would say, by the time I got to college, I knew I wanted to be part of this game in some way.
Wow, that's awesome because the teacher, not just teaching, reading and writing and arithmetic, kind of facilitating a
Mhm.
passion. And that's really what our great teachers are there to do. So you went, so by college you knew, and then what was the path to ESPN?
So I had a few internships. I worked for SMY this summer after my junior year of college, and that led to another internship with NBC Sports Chicago, where I went to school in Chicago. And then from there, I saw about this ESPN Stats and Info job, and I was applying to jobs in my senior year. And I was like, hey, this makes sense for me. I'm always trying to answer these questions. Me going back to my parents, we would sit around and say, hey, who was the last guy to do this? Who was the last guy to do that? And at the time, I couldn't answer those questions. And I realized that now I had the tools to do so. So it was really just a perfect bet.
So you come up with the questions in your head. You're just genuinely that curious.
Absolutely. I mean, it's very hard for me to see things happen and not wonder, hey,
Really?
when's the last time? How many guys have done this, whatever it may be. And, it built on itself, watching baseball for 31 years now and, maybe consciously for about 25. I have so many questions because I've seen so many games. I know what might be notable and what might
Mm.
not be. And you know the same thing. You see something and you know it might be interesting.
What's the coolest stat you've ever researched, or coolest fact, or best tweet you've ever put out?
Mm. So my all-time favorite is the snow that happened in 2019. Pablo Sandoval was on the Giants and he came into pitch in the bottom of the eighth of a game the Giants were getting blown out. He'd already hit a home run earlier in the game. He comes in, throws the scoreless eighth inning. Then the top of the ninth, he gets on base. And he ends up with a stolen base. And you know Pablo Sandoval, not his go-to move. I'm sitting there wondering how many guys that have stolen base, a home run, and scoreless pitching outing. So I look into it and turned out that the only other guy since 1900 to do all of that in the game was Christy Mathewson, like 1905. In the game that, by the way, was also against the Reds, who they were playing. And of course, he didn't throw one scoreless inning. He threw a shutout, a whole complete game. But they were the only guys to have a home run, stolen base, and a scoreless pitching outing. And then because baseball is the best, and this is how it goes, Shohei Ohtani then did all this last year
Oh,
in
wow.
2023. And the moment he did it, I said, hey, I know the list you joined because this has been my favorite thing since 2019.
Wow. People always ask me, young girls in the business, is it difficult being in this business? And there's ups and downs, right? There's beautiful things, and then there's days that are a little bit tough. I remember carrying my first job was in Minot, North Dakota, Sarah, and I would carry my camera into Saskatchewan, Canada, and shoot JV ice hockey, and then I would drive back through the border and edit the footage and all that kind of stuff. And I was at the time I couldn't really pay my rent, so my dad had to help me, and I thought, man, I don't think I'm cut out for this, right? Was there ever a moment that you thought maybe this isn't for me, or that it was a little bit more difficult than you thought?
I mean, I will say throughout my career, I know I've encountered people who didn't think I knew what I was talking about, didn't think I knew
Yeah.
what I was doing. And I think that's very common, not just for women, for young people, for anyone. And I have, in my head, a whole list of doubters who I know I
Well,
prove
look at
wrong,
her now.
many of whom have become some of my biggest supporters.
That's
So I
something.
know I've encountered those moments, but I was always able to not fall back on, but have in my mind that I knew what I was doing. I knew the game. I knew that I had a right to be there. So even if those people may have had those thoughts, I really tried not to let that get to me because I knew that I deserved to be there.
So well said. I remember a picture that you took of Lou Gehrig's famous speech when you worked at ESPN. It was on the wall, right? Sarah, was on the wall right there, and you thought, "Oh my goodness, I'm going to take a picture of this." Why?
So that was my first day at ESPN, July 27th, 2015. I was sitting in the lobby waiting for someone to come get me to bring me up to my new department where I'd be working. You see my desk. And if you haven't been to the ESPN campus, it's a sportsman's dream. There's stuff all over the walls, everything just, it feels like you're in a permanent sportsman cave. And I see this on the wall, and I'm just thinking, how cool is it that I get to work here? How cool is it that I'm somewhere that has that speech more or less? So I took a photo on my phone, and it's very interesting how it all worked out. But I took it as a baseball fan, as someone who was so, reverent of Lou Gehrig and of his career.
Mm. You've done so much, Sarah, in such a short time, and you've done it all while dealing with ALS, and you've done it with such grace. Take me back to when you realized that something wasn't right.
Well, I was always not always, but since college, I've been an avid runner. I loved running. And I realized I was running a bit slower, but it wasn't out of shame. It wasn't out of practice. And I started noticing, and others told me as well, that I was kind of limping when I was walking, but nothing hurt. So, like any young person, I said, it'll go away. And of course it didn't, and that ended up being really the first sign of all this. But it was as simple as just moving a little differently.
How are you such a bright light? Truly, how I just I how
I,
how are you able to face every day with such passion and kindness and smiles and never in a bad mood? How?
I mean, I'm laughing because I really appreciate it. I'm so grateful that you see me this way, that others do. But truly, I'm just here loving the game, doing what I love. So I see no reason to approach it any differently. Of course, there are bad days. There's the off season, which stinks.
It stings. I always see you, Sarah. I always see you right in the playoffs. You say, "No, let's go 7. Come on. I don't want it
Exactly.
to end."
But baseball is always there, and I'm so grateful for that. And even in the off season, we have top tens, we have awards, we have so many things to work through. And so I'm just so grateful to have that constant in my life.
I see your shirt. I mean, you never want to be in the spotlight, but as we approach Lou Gehrig's Day, you've become the present day face of ALS. What does that mean to you and the support of the baseball community?
I mean, it's really hard to process, I would say. In a way, it's harder to process than the disease itself. This idea that people look to me for this, but I'm very conscious of it. I really do try to raise awareness however I can. My main way of doing that is by doing my job every day, by showing people that someone who has ALS can continue to do all of this and do what they were doing before. But I mean, the support of the baseball community has been overwhelming. When I first shared this in 2021, I was not prepared for the outpouring of love and support, and obviously it has continued, and it is amazing. I don't think I will ever process it.
What do you want people to know, Sarah, about ALS?
I want people to know that it is not just affecting people like Lou Gehrig. Actually, Lou Gehrig was on the younger side of what people think of for the typical case, but there are plenty of young women who are affected, and there are plenty of young people overall. I also want people to know that it's not a rare disease. It's an underfunded one, but it's very, very common in this day and age. I mean, and I think there are a lot of people who don't realize that and don't realize that we have 3 medications for it, and none of them cure it. All they do is give you, a few more months. So understanding the value of funneling money toward that science is really, really important.
You're doing that. You have created such awareness, Sarah. I know that you know in the game. I mean, you're such an inspiration. Earlier this year, Sabre announcing the inaugural recipients of the Sarah Langs Women in Baseball Analytics Scholarship. I mean, wow. How did that come about?
I received an email around the All-Star break last year from individuals with Sabre saying they saw, when they see something happen where a woman gets a position that's maybe groundbreaking, but something that she obviously should have. I always say good, more please. And they were really inspired by that and wanted to do something to encourage women to be able to attend this. Their convention every year in March in Arizona, and I was so honored. And I've heard from the women who got the scholarship this year, and really did help them open their eyes to what they can do in baseball in their futures. And I mean, I can't believe that that's even tied to me. But I'm so, so grateful and honored to be able to have that impact.
It's not just tied to you, Sarah. It's an honor of you. And you got a baseball card, girl. Tell me about this. You're getting your own baseball card from S. Preston Art and Designs. Your signature, baseball is the best. By the way, where'd that come from?
I mean, that just came from my discussing baseball. The original time I used it, I went back and looked at this about a year ago, was when I was in college. We did a round of stories in our college paper where I was the editor of the sports section, with each of us arguing why a certain sport was the best sport. And when I tweet out my story about baseball, because of course I wrote about baseball,
Of course.
I said, here's why baseball is the best. And then at some point over the last few years, when those moments would happen, whether they're on field, off field, dogs that bark at the park, whatever it may be, players interacting with kids, I just started saying it more. And I never intended to have a phrase attached to me on a t-shirt, any of this, but it is true, and I just think it really sums up all that positive energy that baseball brings.
Baseball's the best. That's the phrase. If you had to give advice, if that was your first T-shirt, baseball is the best, and your second T-shirt said something else, what would it be? Words to live by, inspiration. What drives you, and what inspires you?
I mean, one thing I'll say is the idea of making sure we appreciate others. I've said this so many times, but whenever, I mean, we saw this recently with Bill Walton, the outpouring of love after he passed away. It is wonderful. It is so well deserved. And I hope he heard all of that while he was alive. And I always feel that I get an unnatural amount of praise, especially since I shared this diagnosis, and I really, truly do appreciate it. And there's so many people in my life who are not in this situation, who are not dealing with anything nearly as, drastic, who still deserve to hear how appreciated they are, how loved they are. So, I mean, if there were to be another, it would be appreciate others and do it very aggressively. Make sure you tell people how much you're grateful for them. I think we do not tell people enough, people who are in everyday situations, how grateful we are for who they are and what they bring to the table.
You make the game better, Sarah. You do. Do you know that?
I don't know how to process that from you, but I'm so, so grateful. Thank you.
Okay, I've got questions. Are you ready? Because you're the best and biggest baseball fan there is. I've got fun questions. Favorite current player to watch?
Oh my gosh, there's a tie. It's Juan Soto and Julio Rodriguez. With Soto from the moment he debuted, from the moment he hit his home run in June. They counted for the 5 days before his debut. But Julio was first on the scene, and these guys are just everything that is good about the game right now. So I'm going to give it to both of them. I'm so glad we have them playing baseball right now.
Well deserved. Favorite all-time player to watch, not current?
Well, all right. I mean, I think Willie Mays has to be the answer. Obviously, I did not get to see him, but just everything I've heard from my mother and everything I've watched, I really grew up a lot of San Francisco Giant influence, and I think I would have to go with him for all time.
If you could be in the stands for one moment in baseball history, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. I mean, there's so many to think of. Right now, of course, I do think of being in the stands when Gehrig gave that speech. I also think of Henry Aaron's breaking home run when he passed Babe Ruth. I mean, any of these moments. But the amazing thing is, I've been in the stands or in the press box for all of these little moments, and all of them were so, so amazing.
Player you would love to meet? I feel like you meet a lot of players. You and Garrett Cole are besties, and you got access, girl.
Oh my God. I don't even know how to answer that one, but I am going to pivot and say that every single player I've had the honor to meet, whether it was before all this, when I was more of a reporter in the clubhouse, or now when I have individuals coming up to me, they're so gracious, they're so wonderful, and I hope fans know just how great of guys these players are. Because you watch them on the field, you may not know that, but they
It's true.
really, really are.
Yeah, it's true. You talk about their families. You get to know their families and what makes them tick, right? It just makes you root for them even more. Favorite ball player to watch a game at? Ballpark, excuse me.
I think I would have to go with Oracle Park in San Francisco. I have so many family memories being there with my mother and my grandmother the first time we went there, my father there as well in the early 2000s. I mean, it's so, so gorgeous and I love it. I love bundling up, getting on however
Hot dog.
many coats and scarves I may need. And I love Oracle Park.
This is awesome, Sarah. Thank you for the time. You're an inspiration to everyone.
Thank you so much for having me. I love getting to talk to you.
Always. Thanks for joining us on the MLB Network podcast.